Welcome, everyone, to the Squared Circle podcast, the UK's #1 pro wrestling podcast. Andy here this week, flying solo, hopefully for one of the last times. Bit of a new look, slightly different. I'm actually in Wembley Stadium, if you can see by my background. How is everybody doing? We got a big show coming up for you this week. We're going to be bringing you all of the latest news, including CM Punk. We're going to be talking about MGF, and we're also going to talk about ticket sales for some of the biggest events happening in December. As well as that, we're going to be looking back to ECW's December to Dismember in the retro chat. We're going to ask Chat GPT, and we're going to look at this week in wrestling history. But if you want to get in contact with us, you can do. All you need to do is head over to social media, and you can see them at the top of the screen. Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, at TSC Wrestling Pod, and you can use the hashtag TSC Pod. Email us, studio at squaredcirclepodcast.com. I almost said a different show then. And don't forget, you can listen to us on podcast on all main podcast providers on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google Play. Search for the Squared Circle podcast and look for the green banner with the old TKO copy logo in front. All right, so last week we talked all about the Survivor Series, and one of the big returns ever within professional wrestling was CM Punk. So let's kick off the news line right now, and we'll talk more about CM Punk and MJF. See you in a sec. All right, so news has come out this past week that CM Punk actually looked to sign with AEW to WWE whilst under AEW contract. Now, he has reportedly been looking to return to WWE for a while, even before his departure from All Elite a few months ago, following the altercation with Jack Perry, right here, if you look at the picture, at Wembley Stadium. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer revealed that Punk had tried to sign with the WWE twice prior to returning at Survivor Series. Meltzer wrote, from the WWE side, they knew Punk would come since there were two prior attempts Punk's side made to come in. Once before he signed with AEW, and the second time last year when WWE couldn't have got him away because his AEW contract was still in effect. So Phil Brooks wanted to return home. So was he using AEW as a stepping stone to return back to the WWE? That would make you think quite possibly was the case. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have been asking is why can't CM Punk or Tony Khan mention AEW or CM Punk respectively? Well, that's because they are both under NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Anybody that was involved in the backstage interactions are unable to speak about each other. Now, that would include Adam Page, the Young Bucks, and Jack Perry. But it's not confirmed if Kenny Omega is under an NDA, but one would assume he was, as he was in the room during the backstage altercation at All Out last year. Now, AEW World Champion MJF has mentioned Punk on AEW programming, but only in the matter of the feud they had while Punk was still with the company. So obviously he can still be mentioned, but not from any of those involved in the altercations. What's going on? I can't get my words out already, but here we go. Now, on the show last week when I was talking to Lee, I raised the thing about Eric Bischoff and whether or not on his podcast, 83 Weeks or Strictly Business, he would be positive or negative towards CM Punk's return, because obviously he was quite vocal, if you listen to those podcasts, about his run within All Elite. Well, WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff did indeed speak about the return of Punk on the latest edition of Strictly Business, where ECE predicted that Punk's run could be miraculous as long as he remains motivated. So, on Punk's return, he said, CM Punk showing up in WWE, clearly that's what, a decade's worth of story. His role in WWE, the way he left, the pipe bomb, which by the way, I found out subsequently was actually written for him, but the story is there. There's been anticipation that's been brewing since the minute he left AEW. Is he going to come back? Yes, he is. No, he does. No, he isn't. The anticipation has been there almost instantly. It didn't have to be created or manufactured. The reality is the authenticity of it all. All the stuff we've been reading about 18 months with regard to Punk and AEW and the drama with the Elite, the press conference, it's all real. That's not a storyline. These are all things that happened. It's authentic. It's a manufactured story. So you've got a great story. You've got a great history. You've got anticipation that will build from the moment the news broke that Punk was being let go. He believes, Eazy-E, that Punk's second run could be better than his first if he stays motivated. I'm pretty sure Punk is going to, provided he wants to. Motivation is the core. If Punk woke up and said, look, I want to have one more really, really good run, and if he's willing to be a team player, now the key emphasis there on team player, I think he's going to be very successful in WWE. He's not going to be able to get away with the same kind of silliness, nor would he be exposed to the same kind of backstage environment. So Eric Bischoff kind of playing a weird card there, because he's not totally against CM Punk coming in. He's not totally against CM Punk, but there's still imperfections regarding AEW. So I'm not sure really if this whole feud that he's got with Punk during his run with AEW was more about All Elite or Punk. I guess we'll have to find out. So you can listen to Strictly Business or 83 Weeks on podcast for that. Punk news continues, right? Because Punk is back in the news and he's not going to be going anywhere out. Now, it was recently revealed that the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, was part of the disciplinary committee who suggested to Khan that they fire Punk from All Elite. And that was after his backstage incident at All In. Daniels spoke about this during an interview with Maggie and Perloff, where he confirmed his role on the committee. And he said, yeah, I'm part of the disciplinary committee. Clearly what happened has happened. I'm somebody who, I like Punk. I think he brought a lot to AEW while he was here. There is not a lot I can say about it or that I want to say about it. I am part of it. It's really funny. You know how the internet is? Some people say I was the head of the committee. There were more than 3 people involved in the decision, but most of them were all lawyers. To say that I was head, I don't even have a college degree. I'm not in there bossing people around. I am a part of the committee. Danielson was later asked in the same interview if it was a difficult decision to make, stating that he loves Punk and wishes him well on his run. He said, absolutely. As somebody who I have a lot of empathy, I'm grateful for the time he was able to spend in All Elite. He did a great job, and I wish him the best in his future, and I hope his run there goes well. CM Punk's controversy is going to continue in professional wrestling right the way through until he retires, I'm sure. So where is he going to go next? Well, we're going to have to find out, because we know that he is on SmackDown this week as part of Tribute to the Troops. All right, another news, injury update on Maxwell Jacob Friedman. It's been reported that MJF tore his labrum during his recent title defense against Jay at Full Gear back in November. MJF himself confirmed the news in an now-deleted tweet and was seen walking with a cane at this past Wednesday's Dynamite due to a separate injury to his hip. The latest was MJF is still planning to work the world title matchup against Samoa Joe at World's End. Now, I predict he will drop the world title at World's End. Why? Not because of the fact he needs to, but because it will continue to play into the story of where am I going in January. If he drops the AEW world title, it will get many people to think he's gone the next day, a way of saving business. If he retains the title, then there is an argument to state that people will say he already knows they've resigned. There is rumors going around that MJF has secretly re-signed with All Elite and is staying on a long-term basis, but that's not confirmed yet. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think MJF is going to re-sign with All Elite, Or do you think he's going to go where the money is in January of 24 and move to WWE? Let us know on social media. Would love to hear your thoughts. One person who is not, however, going to be a part of WWE in 2024 is Mackenzie Mitchell. The NXT backstage interviewer and media personality recently revealed that she was released from her WWE contract. She said, "Today I was released by WWE. I met my husband, moved cross country from Connecticut to Florida for NXT, a place I've always considered home. Met friends that became like family, and I've always said and firmly believe when another door closes, another opens." Mitchell has been with the WWE since 2019, previously worked for Impact, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is where I see her going, right back to TNA. And I hope she does, because I think TNA are missing something with their backstage. And someone like Mackenzie Mitchell, who's already got a reputation with the Impact fans, they already know her. She's got a relationship, she's got a rapport with them. They know her now from NXT. It's a perfect combination to do. Now, according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, AEW will finish 2023 grossing between $170 to $175 million in revenue. 67% increase from 2022. Staggering numbers for the company. For context, here is the last 4 years of AEW revenue. In 2020, 64 million. 2021, 86 million. 2022, 100 million. 2023, 170 to 175. The report mentions that 2024 looks to be even bigger for AEW, as the new TV rights deal they acquired is expected to give them another boost. Add into that All In, because the gate from All In at Wembley on its own grossed over $10 million, and we now know that tickets are now available, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But they've added the number of pay-per-views. Wrestle Dream, World's End, with increased prices for live events, has all helped. AEW is going in the right direction for business, but is it going in the right direction for storylines? Now, talking about TV rights, we mentioned those just a second ago. The red brand for WWE Monday Night Raw will be airing on USA until 2024. But where it's going to go after that still hasn't been decided. In fact, it's the only show not to have a new home. SmackDown will return to the USA in 2024, and NXT will begin airing on CW. Now, previous reports have indicated that Amazon, Disney, Netflix, and Warner Brothers Discovery were interested. Well, one of those bidders can now be removed from the list. According to the latest Observer newsletter, Warner Brothers turned down Nick Khan's pitch to bring Raw to their stations back in October. Khan and Triple H were said to be in LA during the week, taking meetings to find Raw a home, so there's a chance another pitch could be made to WBD. However, Andrew Zarian from the Mat Men Pro Wrestling Podcast stated the belief is WBD are not interested and will remain loyal to AEW. All right, we mentioned All In earlier on in the program. News on the ticket sales for All In. Tony Khan went on Twitter and said, "Thank you all who made today's AEW All In on sale a huge success for AEW plus Wembley. Our 2023 ticket on sale was in May. This time, we began 5 months sooner. On day one, AEW's already sold over $4 million in tickets. That's over £3 million. Just getting started. All In is 9 months away. Are you all in? I've seen a lot of reports about people buying their tickets already. So are you all in? Let us know across social media. I've not got tickets yet. I'm waiting. I think, as we talked about last week on the show, with the current cost of living crisis, where we are in terms of the time of the year, with Christmas only being, as we record this, 21 days away, people, it's the wrong time for tickets to be released for this event. But who knows? Obviously, AEW know what they're doing. They've already secured it, and now we're going to get to see what happens going forward. But let us know if you're going to be all in, and we will see you there. All right, coming up after this quick break, we're going to be talking Chat GPT, 5 questions asked to me. Oh, God. Here we go. So after this. All right, welcome back to the Squared Circle. The action keeps on rolling here this week because now we're going to open the doors of Chat GPT. Now, we've done this before on a couple of occasions. Normally got a co-host with me, but what I'm going to do is bring up Chat GPT and ask it to give me 5 questions. Now, the theory thread, and I did this in the break, is to provide 5 questions to provoke a discussion about the world of professional wrestling. Questions can be based on any promotion, any superstar, any era, or any decade. So let's have a look. Here we go. In the landscape of professional wrestling, which wrestler's surprise debut had the most significant impact on the industry, and how did it change the direction of their career and the promotion they joined? Well, this is a really tough question to answer because so many debuts have happened within professional wrestling. If you look at the WWF, right? The Rock joining didn't really impact his career at that point, but when he went away and came back again as The Rock, stratosphere, it changed. Steve Austin coming in as the ringmaster made no impact, pardon the pun, but repackage him as Stone Cold Steve Austin, put him in a feud with Bret the Hitman Hart, went stratospheric. For me, though, I want to go back to TNA and 2009, and I think I'm going to go to Kurt Angle debuting, the Olympic gold medalist, already made a name for himself in the Olympics in Atlanta, a gold medalist, had a stellar run with WWE at that time, world champion, intercontinental champion, European champion, been part of the Survivor Series angle, but was beginning to tread water in WWE, and Impact really kind of revolutionized and rejuvenated him. He had some of the best matches, but more than that, it put TNA on the map as a big player, as a mainstream competitor. All right, they had Sting involved, they had Jeff Jarrett involved, but the first big defection from the WWE to TNA was Kurt Angle. That changed the ball for them. I don't know if Impact would have grown as much as what they did without Kurt Angle coming in, because then it opened the floodgates for guys like Christian Cage, Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, even Hulk Hogan to come into the business. So Kurt Angle going to TNA is my pick for that first one. Take myself off mute. Now, I've got an apology. I've got a bit of a cold, so that's why you might get a little bit of a period of quiet. So I'm going on to pause. Question 2. The concept of heel face characters is fundamental in wrestling. Can you think of a wrestler who successfully transitioned from being a fan favorite to a despised villain or vice versa? And how did this change impact their career? Again, you know, thinking about this, you could have gone with someone like the Hot Rod, Rowdy Roddy Piper. But I'm actually going to go for the Hitman. And specifically, the Hitman who loved Canada and the UK and the rest of the world, but hated America. This was a complete transition. It was playing this blurred reality where really we're breaking the fourth wall between kayfabe and non-kayfabe. We all knew and we all know that kayfabe doesn't exist. But for Bret to play fan favorite in certain countries and heel in others was not only a testament to his skill and his ability as a performer, but how he can get the crowd engaged. And I don't think there's somebody now that could do that equally as well as what the Hitman Bret Hart did. Now, some people will say that that actually had an impact on Bret's career because he never quite regained the popularity that he did in the US. And of course, bear in mind, it wasn't long after that that Owen passed away. But I think for that period of time, it was different. It was unique. And no one could have done it any better than the excellence of execution. So for that one, I'm going for Bret Hart. Question 3, if you could pick any wrestling match to introduce someone to the world of professional wrestling, what match would it be and why? Ooh, I could think of plenty that you wouldn't want to introduce them to, but WrestleMania 3 is always my go-to. I've got 3, and they're all from the classic era. That's not to say the modern era doesn't have anything of worthwhile, because they do, but I'm talking at the moment specifically about the classic era, because I think that's For me, that's my forte at the moment, is I'm still enjoying more of the classic era than the modern current product. So the first one, not in any particular order, WrestleMania 3, 1987, Randy Macho Man Savage facing off against the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat, for the Intercontinental Championship. Over 30 minutes. Didn't stop. Liz on the outside, the Animal George Steele on the outside. The chemistry between the Macho Man Randy Savage and the Dragon was absolutely there. The other match to consider, apart from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and the Macho Man, is SummerSlam 1992. Now, again, this is obvious, but the British Bulldog and the Hitman Bret Hart was a clinic in professional wrestling. It was everything that anybody ever wanted it to be, right? You had the home crowd hero of the Bulldog, you had the excellence of execution of Bret Hart. Again, 20, 30 minutes, stands the test of time. Absolutely tremendous. And I did say that there was a third match. Well, I'm going to hold back on that and let you guys tell me what you think, in your opinion, that match should be. And I will tell you what I think next week on TSC. Question number 4. Who do you consider the greatest promo or cutting the best promo in the history of professional wrestling? And what specific promo moment left a lasting impression on you? I am not a fan of this guy. Everybody who knows this show will know that I am not a fan of this guy, but I am going to go CM Punk for the pipe bomb. I mean, the gravitas of this pipe bomb, the gravitas of walking out saying, I am the best in the world. It set him apart. That's what he needed. He'd been in the kind of the graveyard slot for WWE for quite a while. This pushed him through that glass ceiling into the upper echelon. So for me, it's the pipe bomb CM Punk. The last question is, throughout the decades, we've seen various gimmicks and characters. What wrestler's gimmick do you think was ahead of its time and would still be successful if introduced in today's wrestling landscape? Wow, that is tricky. There's arguments to say the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, just for the way the promo was cut. There's arguments to say Owen Hart. I don't know on that one. I really don't know. That is a really tricky question. I'm going to have to think about this one. You could do the obvious. You could do the Roddy Piper. You could do the Owen Hart. You could do the Hitman. You could do the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I'm going to go with the Undertaker. All right. The dead man persona, the fact that he kept changing it, the way he came out, the way his career has developed, the legacy. If you brought the Undertaker back today in that debut, it would work. Yes, it was a cartoonish character, if you want to go to that, if you want to put it in that vernacular, but absolutely the Undertaker. Yeah, totally. But what do you think? Let us know across all of social media at TSC Wrestling Pod. I want to know exactly what you guys think on any of these questions. We'll put them in the narrative, both here on YouTube and on audio. All right, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, wrestling history. All right, welcome back to the Squared Circle podcast. Coming up now, we're going to do my favorite segment this week in wrestling history. And we're going to kick it up. We've got quite a busy one. There's quite a lot happening this week in professional wrestling. We're going to kick it off today as we're recording this on December 4th. After winning, this is December 4th, 1991. After winning the WWF Championship back from The Undertaker in controversial fashion at Tuesday in Texas, Hulk Hogan was stripped of the title by on-screen president, the late, great Jack Tunney. The belt would be awarded to the winner of the 1992 Royal Rumble, which wound up being Ric Flair. So this storyline for The Undertaker, the becoming the youngest WWF champion, Hogan winning it back, the stripping, the Royal Rumble, the setting up of Ric Flair as a main event. Incredible, right? We've talked about it the last few weeks on the show. This was the culmination of this, the stripping of the world title. December the 5th, 2004, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, wrestled his first and only match in TNA at Turning Point. Sadly, it would also be the final professional wrestling match ever. And he competed in a 6-man tag. Savage teamed with the charismatic Enigma Jeff Hardy and the phenomenal AJ Styles to face Jeff Jarrett, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash. Elsewhere on the card, Team Canada, which was Eric Young and Bobby Roode, beat the 3 Live Crew, Ron Killings and BG James, to win the NWA World Tag Team titles. The legendary Macho Man Randy Savage. Now, keeping with TNA, December the 5th as well, 2009, TNA announced that the immortal Hulk Hogan would debut for the company on January 7th, 2010. On that same night, Impact would move from Thursdays to go head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. Also on December the 5th, 2018, the Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington, one half of the British Bulldogs, passed away on his birthday at the age of 60 in his hometown of Wigan. The exact cause of death has actually never been confirmed publicly. Now, Billington had undergone a lot of health problems over the years, with a lot of people relating it back to that dynamic style, the headbutt, the high-flying, hard-hitting style he did in New Japan and in the WWF. He also had a lot of family issues, and our thoughts go out to the family of Dynamite Kid. Obviously, he passed away. On December the 6th, 1998, Capital Carnage took place at the London Arena in London. It was, of course, a UK-only pay-per-view. The main event was a fatal 4-way, pitting Steve Austin, the Stone Cold, against The Undertaker, Kane, and Mankind. Austin took the win with an assist from the special enforcer, actor and former footballer, the hard man, Vinnie Jones. On December 7th, 1988, WCW Clash of the Champions 4 Seasons Beatings took place at the UTC Arena in Chattanooga, Tennessee. In the opening match, the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers, defeated Eddie Gilbert and Ron Simmons to win the vacant NWA US Tag Team titles. The main event was also a tag team match, seeing Barry Windham and Ric Flair, the Horsemen, defeat the Midnight Express, Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton. Other notable match on the card saw Road Warrior Animal defeat the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, by disqualification to gain possession of the NWA 6-man championship. Rhodes and the Road Warriors had been reigning champions, but Hawk and Animal dumped Rhodes and took on Tenryu as their new partner. And our last one for this week, December the 7th, 1997, was an in-your-house event called D-Generation X. Took place at the Springfield Civic Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. It was the first pay-per-view since the infamous Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series the month prior. In the main event, Ken Shamrock defeated the WWF champion Shawn Michaels by DQ, and the finish came about when Owen returned to the company to attack Michaels to gain revenge for the treatment of his brother Brett. In the opening match of the night, Taka Michinoku defeated Brian Christopher in the final of the tournament to crown a new WWF Light Heavyweight Champion. The title was being reacted in the company for the first time since its creation in 1981. Now that's this week in wrestling history. Coming up after this, we're going to be opening the doors of Retro Chat, talking all about, quite possibly, the worst pay-per-view ever. ECW December to Dismember after this. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the final part of TSC this week. Slightly different show. Thanks for bearing with me. It's very difficult doing these solo shows, but I hope you've enjoyed the content so far. Now we're going to open up more wrestling history. We're going to go back in time to the retro chat. We're going to open up the doors and look at what happened back in history. At this time, ECW December to Dismember took place December the 3rd, 2006 in Augustus, Georgia. Took place at the James Brown Arena with an attendance of 4,800, a buy rate of 90,000, with the tagline, "You better watch out." Now, December to Dismember was the first WWE produced ECW pay-per-view since the rebirth. And it's also the second December to Dismember in franchise history, because the original took place in 1995 by the former original ECW. The main attraction of the card was an Extreme Elimination Chamber match for the ECW World Titles. Now, it featured the Elimination Chamber with weapons, so a bit like a Lethal Lockdown type of event. Those competing in the ring were The Big Show, who was defending the title, Bobby Lashley, Rob Van Dam, Hardcore Holly, CM Punk, and Test. Lashley won the match and the ECW World Championship after pinning The Big Show following a spear. With his win, Lashley became the first African American to hold the ECW World title. Now, the other main event featured card was a tag team bout between the Hardys, Jeff and Matt, and M&M, Mercury and Nitro, with Melina. Now, this was noticeable because there was one spot where I think the ladder went a bit awry and broke the jaw of Joey Mercury. The event had an attendance of just over 4,500, 4,800 people. It had a buy rate of 90,000, with 55,000 of them domestic buys. So just purchased in the US. And this was the lowest buy rate in WWE history until the introduction of the network in 2014. Many critics, many fans, including us right here on this show, Lee and myself, called it the worst pay-per-view ever. And to this day, it stays the worst. It was scheduled to be held again in 2007. The show was cancelled after WWE discontinued the brand exclusive pay-per-views following WrestleMania 23 in April of that year. As a consequence of how bad this show was, the following day, Paul Heyman quit and left the WWE until mid-2012. I say quit. There's been confusing narratives, and nobody knows apart from him and McMahon whether he was fired or he was quit. The Wrestling Observer newsletter awards the event as the worst major wrestling show of the year, despite being a 2006 event. It's also considered to be one of the worst WWE pay-per-views ever produced, and PW Insider's Mike Johnson called it the worst pay-per-view ever. So what happened next? What happened following this event? Well, not long after December to Dismember, Big Show was offered a long-term contract extension by the WWE, reported to be around $1 million per year. He declined it, reasoning he was burned out and hurting physically. So what were the results of the card? In the undercard, in the dark match, Stevie Richards defeated Rene Dupree in a singles match. The pay-per-view opened with the Hardys defeated M&M with Melina in 22 minutes and 33 seconds. Balls Mahoney defeated Matt Striker in Striker's Rules match in 7 minutes and 12. Elijah Burke and Sylvester Takei defeated the FBI in a tag match in 6 minutes 41. And Davari with the Great Khali defeated Tommy Dreamer in 7 minutes and 22. Kevin Thorne defeated Mike Knox in a mixed, Kevin Thorne in Ariel defeated Mike Knox and Kelly Kelly in a mixed tag team match in 7 minutes and 43 seconds. And Bobby Lashley defeated The Big Show, Test, Rob Van Dam, Hardcore Holly, and CM Punk to win the ECW title in 24 minutes and 42 seconds. At the conclusion of this pay-per-view, Tommy Dreamer asked to be released from the WWE. He was denied, and he stayed with them for years following. All right, December to Dismember, worst pay-per-view in history, but what do you think? Let me know across social media at TSC Wrestling Pod. As we draw the end of this year, what are we going to do upcoming on the shows? Well, stay tuned to social media, stay tuned across YouTube, because we'll be giving plans for what we're going to do for the shows. Obviously being pre-recorded, it makes no real impact, but we are going to do a best of 23 and a worst of 23. So let me know what you think fits into those criteria. Email studio@squaredcirclepodcast.com, or visit us on social media and let your voices be heard. That's it for me. Thank you for joining me. Bit of a different show this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you next week for more TSC. Until then, see you at the matches. Bye-bye.